Not essential. And 10 years, not essential.
What's not essential?
She wants top and trousers. Huh?
Top and trousers? Yeah, it's essential.
It's not essential, is it?
Yeah.
Who's Alice? Alice! Who's this? Who's this? So lovely! Ooh! So lovely! Alice! Alice! She's probably usually like stairs. But she's anything. It is actually, and I'll be with Brown this morning. Outside and up. I live in the room. Sort out my little food. I've been in the kitchen. Sort that out. I've been very productive.
Morning, Abdullah.
Good morning, Professor Foskett. How are you?
Yeah, can you see me? I'm live.
Okay, 1 minute. I'm just logging in right away.
There's lots of there's lots of people have said hello to me.
Oh yes. One moment. One sec. I'm just logging into my system. I think moment I have sent and the link. There we go. That's the link. I go in again and. Absolutely. There you go. From the pocket, I can see you.
Fantastic.
Oh, lovely. So, what we will do from the pocket, the session will be live at 3:30 for all the students who can, who've logged in and want to listen to you. We will go live at 3:30. This will be the best session. So, possibly the students are still joining in, and they will continue joining till about 3:30.
Yeah, that's fine.
3:30 we start shop and you can start your session at 3:30. No problem.
Yeah, you tell me, Abdullah. Tell me when you want me to start. Hello, Abdullah.
Yes, no,
tell me when you want me to start.
So 11 o'clock you get time.
11 o'clock. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And you can you hear me on the YouTube?
Yes, I can.
You can. Right. Good. Okay. Okay. Brilliant. So, okay. Yeah. So I'll start at 11 o'clock. There's on the live chat. There's lots of people coming in.
These are all the students, our India students.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Okay.
And what we'll do, Prof. Foskett, is that Prof will message you. So while you are teaching, he will be choosing the questions for you, and he will be sending it to you on your WhatsApp. So you can check your WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And answer the questions that he sends it to you, because he will be moderating.
Okay, fine. Yeah, if he sends me the questions on WhatsApp, I'll answer them. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll answer.
I'm watching you. In case you need any help, no problem. I'll be on the system as well.
Oh, good. What I'll do is that I'll answer the questions at the end. At the end of the lecture. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. Okay. And they've got the PowerPoint, have they?
Yeah. Everybody has been sent the PowerPoint, so they will be scanning the PowerPoint as you talk. They will be going through the PowerPoint. You can just tell them whether slide 1 or slide 2, and they'll open that particular slide.
Okay, Brian. Okay, so I'll start at 11. Okay, brilliant.
Lovely. All right, all the best.
Thanks.
I'm done working.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.
Excellent. Good morning, Sanjay. Right. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're all well and safe, and it is a privilege for me to talk to you this morning from West London. We live in very difficult times, but obviously we must hope that there is going to be a much better future ahead and things will get back to normal. And all of you students in India will have a fantastic career in this hospitality industry. That I can assure you of. This morning, I'm going to talk about operational control. Having been involved in the hospitality industry and restaurants for over 50 years, there is a problem in many restaurants insufficient control, because when people put money into a restaurant, they expect a return on the investment. They don't expect to lose money. And so many restaurants lose money. So many restaurants can actually make more money if they had a much tighter control. So operational control is about running the business from the kitchen. Now, why do we need control? Why do we need control? Control systems are about money. You can see that a pound sign on the PowerPoint, but equally that could be a dollar, that could be a euro, that could be a rupee. So control systems are put in place to achieve objectives. We don't want to lose money. We want to make money. We want to get a return on our investment. Controls are concerned with informing management of the factors that they want to know. You want to know, what are your daily take-ins? What are your sales levels? Are you turning your seats over more than once? Covers per seat. See, many restaurants need to turn the seats over once, twice during a lunch or dinner service to make money. We want to know gross profit margins. We want to know net profit margins. We want to know our variable and fixed costs and overhead costs and productivity levels. How much work is each individual doing and producing? Now, these are essential facts that we have to know about the business. And at these difficult times in London, people are seriously looking at the overhead costs. Because, for example, in London, everything's closed, all restaurants are closed. They're trying to negotiate the rents with their landlords. They're trying to get a rent freeze or a reduction in rents, as they're not getting any money coming in. So we have to work on benchmark data. What are the targets? How many customers do you need in your restaurant at lunch and dinner to break even? How many covers do you have to do over the week? How much do they need to spend with you in order for you to make a profit? What are your targets? What's your targets over the year, each month? And each month you should sit down, the chef should sit down with the management team and look at the number of covers in each week. Look at the average spend per customer, per guest. And you need to budget each month for how many covers are we going to do this month? What's our take-ins this month? Are we down on last month? Because that will give you your year's performance. And has your year's performance been better this year than last year? Now, what we do know is that in London, for example, and in many parts of the world, restaurants will have a very poor year compared to last year because of the lockdowns. And then we have to know the company or industry norms. What's the industry norm for making a profit in a restaurant? If you're making 5% net profit, you're actually doing very well. If you're making 72% gross profit, the difference in buying the food and selling the food, you're doing well. So these are industry norms. So many years ago, the norm was 10%, but it's very difficult to make 10% these days. In fact, many restaurants before the lockdown were finding it very, very difficult to even make 5%. Now, the variances occur from 1 month to the next, 1 year to the next, with uneconomical buying. Purchasing is actually very, very important. Can we get the best price for the best quality? So that requires a lot of negotiation with suppliers. Also, a big issue is, how do we cut down on waste? Waste is a major problem in the hospitality industry. And waste can be created by poor preparation methods, poor cooking methods, over-ordering, overproducing. But equally, it can be waste on the plate, too big a portions. You've got to watch the amount of plate waste coming back because you may be giving too much food away. Overstaffing. Overstaffing is an issue. We've got to get the right staff for the right amount of customers. Over portioning, as I've said, too big a portions, inconsistent portions. Theft by customers and or staff. Theft is a major problem in the restaurant business. And particularly amongst chefs, they feel that at the end of the week, they're entitled to take some food home because it's part of their perks. And some managers turn a blind eye to this because they see it as what we call quasi-legitimate. It's part of the job. It's not. There has to be policies and procedures laid down, because this is another way that restaurants lose money. Short deliveries. Your order 10 kilos of minced beef. Do you check the weight? Many restaurants don't. They just assume they're getting 10 kilos of minced beef. You should check the delivery note. Check the weight. And when I ask restaurateurs to do this, they are surprised, shocked how they're being misled by suppliers because it's not the correct weight. Absolutely essential that we check the deliveries. And then we have the whole catering cycle on control. A well-run business effectively is a cycle of interrelated events. And it starts with menu planning. Menu planning is to make sure that the menu, the dishes, are exactly what the customer wants. And we get that against clear market data. The type of customer, the type of food they want to eat, the needs and the expectations of the customer, and how much is the customer prepared to pay. For example, I was speaking to a leading restaurateur a few days ago who has closed all his restaurants for lockdown. And he said, we've got to relook at menus when we open, because people will not want to pay the price they paid before. After the lockdown, people will have less money to spend, less corporate finance. Therefore, we have to relook at the menus, relook at the pricing. And this leads to purchasing and storage. Purchasing the right ingredients at the right price and storing them correctly, making sure the fridges are well stocked properly at the right temperature, and we use the rotation of food correctly. I've been into restaurants, I've walked into restaurants, and I've opened the fridge door, terribly untidy, and far too much ordered, far too much waste, far too much going in the bin. And that leads to production. How you produce the food. That there's not waste in overproduction. Service. That you get the service right. You get the amount of service that people want right in the restaurant. And this leads to sales, monitoring what people are buying. And this we call menu engineering, which we'll come to at a later stage. But much of this data will be on computers. And week by week, month by month, you have to monitor what's going on in terms of purchasing, in terms of production, because this is a very carefully controlled business. And accounting for stock and cash. This is important. In a fully controlled catering system, each part of the cycle is properly recorded. so that variances can be properly isolated to the function responsible. So you've got to know where there is a drain in the system, if there is one. Where are you losing money? Where are you making money? Stock control is absolutely paramount. And the amount of cash and cash flow. So the principles of effective control is simply this. A control system integrates with a sound accounting system. So in any establishment, at the end of the week, you sit down the manager and the accountant and you look at revenue, you look at income, and you look at costs. The results produced by the control system are only valid if there's a set of objectives against which the results are measured. Now, what this means is that how many customers did you expect to do each week for lunch, for dinner? How much what was your food budget? How much did you expect to spend on food? How much staffing? Are you on target with staffing? Are you on target with the labour costs? Because your labour costs may be far too high for the amount of covers that you're doing. Now, controls also cost money to set up and management time to operate. There is little to be gained from investing time and money in applying sophisticated controls to a section of the business where the improvement is trading, performance is negligible. Now, what this means is this. A lot of small restaurants have spent a lot of money on sophisticated systems, IT systems. But having done so, it has saved them very little money. A small restaurant can do much of this manually. However, a large catering operation would need a complex IT system, software package. Now, there are key areas I have a question. How can we forecast for last minute increases in the guest flow? This is a very difficult one, and that's what makes the industry quite unique. What we do is we look at March or April this year and compare it to last year. Compare this week to last week. But if we know, for example, there is going to be a local festival, or in London there's a big event, we know we're going to be busy. If we know also that if the weather is going to be fine and people are going to come out, then we're likely to be much busier. On the other hand, if we know that we're in for extremely bad weather, then we're going to do less covers. In London, for example, Enzo, who we all know very well, his restaurant is opposite a theatre. He knows that if there is a very popular production, he's going to be busy. When the theatre is closed between shows, 1 week to the next, his number of covers is going to be down. So he has to carefully forecast. But there can be times, for example, when you can get caught out unexpectedly. And for this, we carry a buffer stock. We carry a certain amount in the freezer to get us out of trouble. It's not an exact science, but it is monitoring week by week, day by day. It's monitoring the activities. Weather plays a big part. In this part of the world, weather plays a big part, whether you're going to be busy or not. Okay? I hope that partly answers the question. So a control system is concerned mainly with measuring the variable costs and income. As far as catering business is concerned, control is needed in the following areas. You have to have control over what you are selling. Cash, credit. Yeah, very careful that you monitor the amount of credit that you're owing. Pricing. Carefully watch your pricing strategy. People are very often very price conscious or price sensitive. And people say to me, what's the difference in price conscious and price sensitive? If you are price sensitive and you see that a restaurant has increased its prices, if you're sensitive, you don't go there anymore. Oh, they got too expensive. If you're price conscious, the restaurant's put up its prices, but you moan and you complain, but you don't stop using the restaurant. So there's a clear difference in price conscious and being price sensitive. Goods inwards, always checking the goods as they're coming in, the weight, the quality. Energy costs, big issue. You can't put the gas salamander on 8 o'clock in the morning. And there's a big issue around the amount of energy kitchens use. And many old equipment, and there's much of it around, uses so much energy that actually in the long term it would pay for itself if you replaced it with more efficient equipment to save energy costs. Stock holding levels. So many restaurants I go to, they carry far too much stock. Far too much stock. Check your stock on a daily basis, because stock is liquid cash. Remember that. Stock is liquid cash. I've just had another question. What are the top things that one has to keep in mind when opening a restaurant? Well, first of all, there are many restaurants that open up as a vanity project, that people think it's an easy business to run. It's not. It's a very complex business to run. The top thing is, look at the area, the location. Who are your customers? What market are you in? You can't be all things to all people. You have to design the product to the market. And they are the top things, is getting the market right and the product right for the market. It's not necessarily what you want. It may be your restaurant, but it is the customer's restaurant first, because you're trying to please the customers and the expectations in order to get a return on the investment. And when I say to people, when they want to open up a restaurant, many of them said to me, I didn't realize it was so complex. And it is extremely complex. You've got to get the customer base right, the product right, and the price. The price is key. How much people are prepared to pay for that product. And the location. Footfall is important. And where we are in London, outside of London, parking is essential. Many restaurants will be much better if they had parking. If someone gave me the keys to a Michelin star restaurant, I would give them back. If they gave me the keys to a brasserie or a bistro in a good location with a footfall, and the rent was right, and the rates were okay, I would grab them. Michelin star restaurants, many of them do not make money. Many of them are vanity projects. Casual dining is much better to make money or opportunity to make money than fine dining. Labour costs. Labour costs are essential to keep down the actual cost of labour. Some of these Michelin star restaurants like Heston Blumenthal, for example, the Fat Duck, they rely on stages. People working there to learn but not get paid. That's not a true business in my view. It's vanity. Stock management. Manage your stock well. Always manage your stock well. Don't overstock. And monitor the amount of stock consumed at the end of each day. Not the end of each month, at the end of each day. Do a stock take, a mini stock take at the end of each day. Yes, short deliveries. I've just had another question about short deliveries means that you've ordered 10 kilos of minced beef, and when you weigh it, it's 9.5 kilos. So you're missing 500 grams, which is about, a good 10 portions. Could be 10 portions. You've ordered, for example, 20 melons and only 19 come. And this is a well-known fact in London that you have to check the deliveries and the quality, but particularly the weight. So if you order 10 kilo of tomatoes and you only get 8, you're missing 2 kilos of tomatoes. But you're paying for them because it's on the delivery note and the invoice. But you have failed. You have failed to check the incoming goods. You have failed to check what you ordered. 10 kilos of beef, you weigh it and it is 10 kilos. Then it's not 9.5 kilos. So be very, very careful. Or you order a certain weight of chicken, 10 by 2.5 kilograms of chicken. Each chicken is 2.5 kilograms, and you only get 2 kilograms. You're missing a whole weight of chicken. You must weigh everything and check everything on short deliveries. Staff use of services is important. Many companies have stopped the employees using the telephone for their own use. Even with the use of mobile phones, there is always a temptation with employees to use the main line to phone their friends or to use it for their own use. Waste control. You must make sure that staff are very careful and conscious about waste and to cut down on waste. That they use equipment professionally. That they don't kick the door. They don't damage. Yeah. That it has to be replaced. For example, small equipment. I mean, this is a prime example of control. The way a small food processor, it gets hammered in a kitchen, gets thrown into the wash sink and gets damaged. Small mixing bowls, electrical mixers, they get damaged because it's misuse. I know when I was teaching, one of the biggest problems with students was that they didn't treat often the small mixers, with respect. And many of them got damaged and had to be repaired at an awful cost. You must treat small equipment with respect, because you don't want to keep replacing it. So, control of cash. The objective of efficient receipt of goods is to ensure that catering operation receives exactly the items ordered in terms of the answers to questions about short deliveries, in terms of quality, quantity, and price. Make sure the price quoted is the price on the invoice. And to prevent all this, you must keep a very tight control. Determine exact requirements from the menu uptake, estimated production level, and actual stock holding. In some computerized systems, like Kitchen Cut, stock holding will be determined as a direct result of sales recorded at the cash point. So for example, in many establishments, particularly in retail, directly something is sold, it comes off the stock. Manual stock taking will still be required sometimes. And the reason why we have manual stock holding is because the computer system is only good as the data you put into it. Remember that. I have another question. What would be the most prudent way for the industry to overcome losses incurred during the present lockdown? Well, that is the million-dollar question. And I've had numerous conversations about this one over the last 2 weeks. I think that there is no easy way. I think those that will survive will have to open up and rebrand themselves as if they were opening a new restaurant, rebrand themselves, excite people that they want to come and use your restaurant again. And this will be marketing, advertising, social media. Hi, we're open as a new concept. We've resurrected ourselves after the pandemic. Come and try us. Get the people in. But this has to be an exciting marketing campaign. If you think you're going to open up, the doors are going to open, people are going to come, that's not going to happen like it was before. You've got to excite people, make them want to come back. But your menus have got to be different. Your pricing has to be different because they won't have the money. A lot of people won't have the money that they had before. It's going to take a year in the economy. So you've got to excite them. Say, we want to look after you. We've reduced our prices, but by reducing your prices in line with the menu, what you've done, you will increase your business because you'll have more money coming through for what people, the amount of people that want to be in your restaurant. So the key word, as I said to Chris Galvin, is rebrand yourself. Rebrand yourself. Excite people. But I don't have the answers because I don't think there are any easy solutions. But I think the advertising and marketing is absolutely key. Now we have control of cash. Cash. Another question. What are the important guidelines for choosing the location of a new restaurant? Location, location, location. The guidelines are, what is the footfall? Can people easily get to you? And if they can, good. But also, are you aiming at the right people? Does the type of restaurant that you want to operate match the local people, the local community, and the local market? That's absolutely key. So if I was to open up a burger bar, where would a good place for a burger bar would probably opposite a large private public school. Yeah. Because I know that youngsters like burgers and their families picking them up. So, so you've got to match the market with the people and the footfall. And if you're a casual restaurant, can I get there? Parking, very important. So control of cash, record orders placed, note quantity, quality, type, specification and price. Always keep a record of your orders. Your order specification and the price that was quoted and the quality. Again, we're packed once they come in at the back door. We're talking about the check-in. Check for quality, quantity, price, and type. If you're ordered Charente melons, you don't want Oja melons or watermelons. There's no good. The supplier say, well, there wasn't any Charente melons, so I've given you watermelons. You don't want watermelons. Watermelons are very different for different purposes. You have to watch. In London, we have to watch suppliers very carefully. Ensure delivery note agrees with the order. What does the delivery note agree with what you've ordered? Note any discrepancies, inform the supplier, and if it's wrong, obtain a credit note. Reject inferior goods, goods not ordered. The key message is watch your suppliers. That's the key message. Record details of goods received against entry for goods ordered. Is what you've ordered what you've received? Now, there are major discrepancies often here. And then we have the control of cash. The checking of quality, quantity, temperature, price. Another question, will it be a good time to start a new restaurant right after lockdown? No, definitely not. If, for example, you wait and see how the economy settles down. No operator will open a new restaurant after the lockdown, unless it was a sandwich bar in a city centre where they can get coffee, sandwiches, etc. There's a lot we're going to learn out of this, but forget fine dining restaurants, forget casual dining, new restaurant after lockdown, forget it. The checking of quality, quantity, maybe temperature and price should be carried out before signing the delivery note as acknowledgement of acceptance. So you don't sign the delivery note until you're satisfied with what you've received. If you fail to do this, This may make any subsequent claim on the supplier difficult, if not impossible. An additional function of the goods ordered receive sheet provides a summary form. So then you get everything in a summary form of what you've agreed. And then we have the control of cash. 4. A total spending level with each supplier is essential knowledge when negotiating payment or payment terms. Now, this is a very important one. Supposing you're a restaurant and you spent last year, the end of your financial year 2019, you spent £80,000 on vegetables with one supplier. You call the supplier in and you say to the supplier, we spent £80,000 with you on vegetables last year and fruit. If you want to keep the business, I suggest you give us another 10% discount next year. So it's negotiation. At the end of each trading period, it is necessary to transfer the total value from the supplier to a summary sheet. So you want to know the total value of what you're spending with each supplier on the summary sheet. You need to know that. And I go to restaurants and how much you spent with the butcher last year, they can't tell me. Good restaurateur said, I spent this with the butcher. I spent this with the fishmonger. You've got to have these at your fingertips. And the total value of goods actually received for use in trading is also needed. The total value of goods and trade is also needed. Some food items, particularly dairy produce and bread, are often accompanied by an unpriced delivery note. It is vital to include an estimate of the cost of these items when calculating a trading result for control purposes. So you've got to do some estimation. This is a very good question. What would be the most appropriate percentage of profit to build into the price? Well, if we're looking at you're looking at basically the gross profit. You're looking at the gross profit. And you're looking at a gross profit of around the difference in buying the food and selling the food between 70 and 75%. That's what you're looking at. Anything lower is not good enough. Unless you're, for example, a club where you're subsidizing by club fees. For example, Stuart Littlejohn at the Oxford and Cambridge Club, for example, is a well-known judge of the YCO. He's working on a 58%. But restaurateurs, like Chris Galvin, will be looking at 70, 75%. The summary of credit purchase form allows for this to be done. The summary of credit, what you've got on credit, because another Next question. Do I think specialization in the chef's trade through higher education gives an upper hand to get into the industry? Well, this is a very, very good question. And this is what I'm going to say to you all. Running a business and being a chef is not just about cooking. It's about being able to run the business. It's about being able to do the operational control. Many chefs who have not had higher education experience often fail as head chefs and sous chefs because they do not understand this. They do not understand the management. And I've been saying it for many, many, many years. You have to have the business acumen. GMs say to me, and they say to me, I last year interviewed 5 chefs for the head chef's job. We gave them a cook-off, excellent. But when it came to the questions about management, none of them could answer the questions about management. So this last question, yes, higher education is essential. When invoices are eventually received in respect of the estimated amounts, these must be allowed for in the summary. So you've got to keep a summary of all your costs, all your credit purchases. It's a very tight operating control procedure. And then you have a specimen form. The process of completing the specimen form may be summarized as follows. Enter all credit supplies in the summary form. What is your take on the automation in the food industry? Well, that's a very interesting one. In order to reduce labor costs, we have to look at more automation in kitchens. We have to look at, yes, at labor saving equipment. Most definitely, we have to look at that. There will be some automation, and that can only be a good thing, but it will not replace the chef's role altogether. Because don't forget, automation has always been in the food industry. I worked in a large food manufacturing company, but the chefs developed the recipes. The chefs developed the methods, and then the engineers took over for the automation. So the specimen form, estimate the value of goods received without invoice. References to previous invoices will help. And enter invoices received for goods previously estimated. Add all figures together and subtract the total of estimated invoice from the previous period sheet. So you know exactly what you have spent. Have your costs gone up this week as opposed to last week, as opposed to last month, as opposed to last year? You keep a very tight, very, very tight control on what you're spending. A large catering operation needs 2 levels of stock record. We're looking at stock records. A stock card for each item showing stock level, purchases and issues. A stock summary sheet, which records the total holding at trading period end, along with the cost prices and total value. So we need to know what does your stock, what's the value of your stock? Where a formal store system is in use, it is imperative that an accurate note is kept of all transfers in and out of the work areas. This transfer note should contain the signatures of both giver and receiver to ensure full responsibility and reduce errors. That means you need to know which each department, what's the pastry spending? What stock has the pastry used? How much butter is the? You may be, for example, using a lot of butter in the whole kitchen, but how much is the pastry used as compared to the sauce used? You need to have these clear guidance of each section, because their costs may be higher. I mean, one hotel I was involved with, for example, the loss in the pastry was 300,000 a year. It actually wasn't worth them keeping the pastry open because they weren't selling enough desserts and sweets. A decision had to be made that actually we have to reduce the cost of the pastry, because the staff costs are too high, and also the food cost is too high. I've had another question. Do you think it will help to companies to acquire new restaurants and hotels at this time? I think this is a very difficult one to answer. I think that if some hoteliers and some hotel companies will take advantage of the market, if a hotel goes on the market and it's reasonably cheap, they will buy it. And they will buy it for long-term investment. They will, but their investment will be over 5, 10, 15 years. So restaurants, no. Hotels, yes. I think there will be companies looking for hotels that are likely to go bust, likely to not operate again, and they will buy them, and they may even freeze them and wait till the market picks up, refurbish them. But that's asset management. That's really very clever asset management, because you're not going to operate them today, but they're looking at 5 or 10 years time. I think there's a great possibility that will happen. Stock holding levels. The target for most types of catering operation should be that sufficient stock is held for no less than 1 week and no more than 3 weeks trading. Do you get that? The target for most catering operations should be that sufficient stock is held for not less than 1 week and no more than 3 weeks trading. Because stock is money. If the stock consumption is 10,000 per week, an ideal stock holding might be 20,000, an example. And stock holding level is best expressed as a cash value of stocks at cost price. Stock value at the end of the trading period can be compared with the amount consumed during the period, and adjustments can therefore be made during the next trading period. So it's stock value. Remember, your stock is money. Managing stock level. Key one. The stock level must be managed and depends on several factors. The menu range. Next question. What is the best approximate manpower percentage provision in the operating cost? This very much depends on the type of establishment. The key thing is keep your labour costs down. Michelin star restaurants have a very high labour costs compared to, for example, McDonald's, casual dining. You can't allow it to go above 30%, and I would be looking at 20%, 22%, certainly no more. I think this is where a lot of businesses go wrong in the sheer cost of labour. You've got to get the labour cost down. And that's where automation comes in, as I said before, the last question, and labour saving equipment. Excellent question. Excellent question just come in. Do you think that the extra cost on sanitation and hygiene will affect the profitability? Well, first of all, I don't think that the hygiene will affect the profitability, because you should be doing that anyway. But it's very interesting. I've had discussions just recently about sanitation of customers and hand washing. I go to some restaurants where a restaurant chain called Pret a Manger, where you go in. If you want to wash your hands, you have to go to a toilet which is basically inadequate for the number of customers. And if you haven't got hand sanitizer, you take your sandwich, your coffee, and you sit down, and you haven't washed your hands. What I've suggested to a design company is, and I've spoken to Chris Galvin about this one as well, that there should be a hand sanitizer on a wall like in a hospital. So if I'm a customer, yeah, I sanitize my hands. A design company have said to me they're going to create a vanity unit for a restaurant so that customers can come in, and before they sit down, without going to the toilet, they wash their hands. One restaurant in a Japanese restaurant in London already has a system that before you sit down, you wash your hands. So I think it will be an increased cost. But I think what it will definitely do, it may increase the number of customers, because customers may think it's safer to eat in that restaurant than it is anywhere else. So I think it could have a very positive effect, particularly on your branding as well. And this is going to come. So managing stock level. The stock level must be managed depends on the several factors. The menu range, and this is where a lot of companies and restaurants go wrong. The menu is too large. In fact, I've suggested to Chris Galvin that he actually reduces his menu range, so it reduces your stock. Extent of the services, whether you're open for lunch, dinner, whether you're a hotel and you've got afternoon tea and room service. The predictability of how busy you're going to be trading. Whether the suppliers deliver, that's an issue. In London, deliveries are every day. But in other parts of the country, deliveries are only 2 or 3 times a week. Average storage, have you got enough space to store? What's the product shelf life? How long is it going to last? And cash, and how much cash you've got, and your credit rating will affect your stock. What do I think is the most upcoming cuisine in the world? Good point. I don't think there really is one, to be honest with you. I think we have trends, and at the moment we have trends and fashions. In London it was Thai, then it was Mexican. Now we've got a lot of influence Peruvian, but I think there is no real world cuisine at the moment that's predominant over another, if I'm honest. I think that in the future consumers will want a different type of customer expectation, and it might be a mix of cuisines. I think that's what we're likely to see in the future. Stock control. To hold too much stock is wasteful of space and ties up necessary money. Holding levels are important. The risk of running out of commodity may endanger the level of sales. That's something we've got to be careful of, that we can't run out of food. Yeah. And this does happen. In London, for example, if you run out of Dover sole, you run out of, you can go and ask the next hotel if they can borrow, and they do. I mean, in my time, we were always from the Dorchester running to the Grosvenor House, or running if we run out of food a weekend. But that's why, if you haven't got that relationship with your other hotels or restaurants, that's where you've got to look at a satisfactory stock level. So this is what control is all about. It is very much about controlling the money, controlling the stock, controlling the waste, controlling the staff. I want to emphasize that it is not just about cooking and production. Yes, that's important. It's about running the business. Another very good question. What is the guess on how much time the industry will spring back? I think at the very earliest, November, December, and to the levels we are before. Christmas will be a very good monitor, because people spend money at Christmas. So November, December. It's not going to happen before then. And I think this time next year, which we've all got to look forward to, this time next year, we'll be fully out of this crisis. There will be a vaccine. Nothing's going to help us more than a vaccine. So we can eradicate COVID-19. We can eradicate it. But that's not going to happen until we get a vaccine. So therefore, I think there'll be gradually coming out of the lockdown. I think we are looking at December November, December, this time next year, let's hope we're fully recovered. Do I think the cloud kitchens will be more profitable in the days to come? Possibly, yes. I think it's too early to say. Don't forget, we mustn't forget that after this, the world will be different. Yeah. The industry will be different. There will be a lot more people working from home, so they won't be using restaurants probably at lunchtime, but they will be going out to dinner with friends. So I think there's going to be lunch sales will go down, but I think that evening and socializing will go up. I think small meetings, events won't happen like they did before. With Zoom now, people can meet on Zoom very successfully without traveling. So we're going to see a very, very different market than we had before. Are there any more questions? What do I think of the future of hotel companies in China and other worst affected countries? I think they will bounce back longer term. The world will bounce back. Don't look at it in terms of months. Look at it in terms of year. Look at it in the next 5 years. You know, Britain has committed a lot of money to businesses, billions of pounds, to get them through the economic problems. And that's going to take 5 years of austerity measures and taxation. So look at this. It's going to take us 5 years. It's going to take the UK 5 years. And I think that countries will bounce back, but it's going to take a long while. But there are many jobs throughout the world. And it's imperative, absolutely imperative for world economics that we bounce back. Any other questions? Well, I hope that you found that useful. Can we build investment costs into the menu costing? No, your investment costs are your return on investment, which is your target for net profit. Your net profit is your return on investment. They're very key. So it's all part of the costing process. But the net profit, it's no gross profit, is only the difference in the food and the menu price you've sold the food at. The difference in buying the food and selling the food. The net profit is the key indicator of whether you are getting a return on your investment, because you can't afford to lose. Well, I hope that you have you found that useful. It's been a great pleasure for me to talk to you all, and I do hope that you will join again next week, same time, same channel, for production control. And if you, after next week, if you've enjoyed in production control, we will do another subject. Take care, and God bless you all. God bless. In the stream, okay, we'll do. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Ha-
Just in the stream.
Okay. How was that?